Now, it used to be the stupid shit like the Rolls Royce and the Bentley and the, $1.5 million worth of watches and Lamborghini and Maserati and all this stuff that I've had. It's none of that juices me anymore. What juices me is the love I get from my students who are just so incredibly successful. I get love every single day. I get a DM, an email, I get a text, I get a gift, I get a card every single day. It's my greatest blessing. And so, that's what juices me now.
Welcome to the Doctors Investor Club podcast, where physicians and dentists come together to elevate their mindset, build their assets, and create a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Dr. Kyle Stevenson. After years in the OR, I've realized wealth is not just about high income. It's about ownership, freedom, and using your money with purpose. Here at the Doctors Investor Club, we share the strategies the wealthy already know: owning a business, real estate investing, becoming your own banker, and intentional investing. Each week, we sit down with entrepreneurs, investors, and physicians who've stepped off the hamster wheel and are building wealth that outlives them. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and the impact you leave behind. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Doctors Investor Club podcast. Today's guest is the perfect example in resilience, real estate, and reinvention. Rod Khleif is a nationally recognized investor who has owned over 2,000 multifamily units, a philanthropist who's benefited more than 130,000 families, and a high-performance coach whose energy is absolutely contagious. Rod is also the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast, one of the largest and most downloaded real estate podcasts in the world. With over 17 million downloads and over 1,100 episodes, focused on multifamily investing, mindset, and wealth building. But what makes Rod truly special is his story, from immigrating to the U.S. with nothing, living on food stamps, to building a real estate empire, and then losing $50 million in 2008 before building it all back with even more impact and purpose. Rod, it's an honor to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kyle. Let's have some fun today. I appreciate it. Man, that bio is so dated. I gotta tell you, that's funny. But yeah, I gotta get that updated. Just things are moving quickly, but it's all good. It's all good stuff. Yeah,
we can always update it too.
Yeah, no, I've owned 2,000 houses, but I own thousands of apartment units, a lot more than that. But it's all good. I mean, it's all braggadocious stuff anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The numbers don't matter.
Yep.
So yeah.
I think the big one is all the families that you're benefiting with.
It's actually over 150,000. Actually, that number is quite a bit bigger too.
Okay.
And in fact, it's probably even more than that. Yeah, that's something I'm very proud of. But
that's amazing.
Yeah. But let's have some fun, brother. How can we add some value? Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I mean, you've built something extraordinary. There's no question. But do you mind taking us back? I mean, again,
Sure.
As we mentioned, there's doctors, there's dentists, there's people listening to this right now that want to see, hey, how did you do it? How did you build your life coming over here as an immigrant to doing what you're doing now?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm a Dutch immigrant, think wooden shoes and windmills. Immigrated when I was 6 with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado. Didn't have much, I remember, eating expired food. We shopped at an expired food store, true story. And we drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And, trust me, it sounds better than it is. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, hand-me-down clothes, all the way through junior high school till I basically lied about my age at Burger King when I was 14 because I was tall, told them I was 15 so I could get a job flipping burgers. And, I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did, or maybe even have it harder now. Well, not doctors and dentists likely, but I meet a lot of people that have, but I knew I wanted more, luckily, back then. And so my mom was a bit of an entrepreneur. She babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she invested in real estate. Well, the first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us when I was 14. She paid $30,000 for it. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that it had gone up in value to $50,000. I'm like, what? This is 1977. This is when 20 grand was a lot of money. I'm like, you made 20 grand, you didn't do anything? Screw college, I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I was going to be rich in real estate, but I was still living at home. But I was a broker. I could have had my own office, and I was smart enough to go work for someone else. But, my first year of real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, actually it was the broker I was working for, that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. And, fast forward to today, like we talked about, I've owned a couple thousand houses I've rented long-term, and I now own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow, which is what I said. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And, when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008-9. I lost conservatively $50 million in 2008-9. And so, what I'm known for talking about on my podcast, and by the way, it's close to 30 million downloads. Like I said, I got to update that damn bio. But anyway, so, is really the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And maybe more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from that to the success that I'm blessed to have today. So happy to talk about mindset a little if you like, or we can just get right into the mechanic. Oh, you want to talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, all the best books start with mindset, right? And you are definitely big on preaching mindset. And so to your point, the Bible talks about it. Everything, is mindset. So yeah, I'd love for you to get into that. All right.
Well, it starts with creating a burning desire or a hunger. This people ask me, how did I recover from losing 50 million? It's the same strategies that I use to recover that someone who hasn't started yet needs to utilize to get into the business. And, quite a way, as you know, in my coaching community, I've got a lot of doctors and dentists in that community. Because they're not getting, the freedom that they want or deserve, even with, a high paying, very, very valuable service role, technical role. If you come to one of my boot camps, I do a virtual event every couple of months now. And the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to figure out what it is you want. You've got to create that hunger. And that's how you push through fear or limiting beliefs. You got to want it. And that's how you get back up when you get your butt kicked, like I did, is to want it. And so that's the first thing I did when I lost everything, was reassociate with my goals. And again, that's the first thing you should do if you want to take your life to another level. If you're in the medical field, like I assume you might be, but there's always another level, and it's your goals that'll get you there. You got to figure out what it is you want and why you want it. Do your goals, create that burning desire and hunger. And then the next piece that I had to do when I lost everything was I had to make a decision. And I don't, and again, same thing applies to you if you're listening, and I'm not talking about dipping your toe in the water. I'm not talking about 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You make a decision, it is freaking done. Okay. And that's a decision. When you make a decision, you're no longer interested, you're committed. And when you're committed, you're not going to get knocked off track. If you're just interested, you're going to get knocked off track. But if you're committed, you're like a train on a track. And then it's no longer a dream, it's an outcome. See, motivation will get you started, but it's that commitment that brings you home. But it starts with a decision. And I know, if you're in the medical field, you're probably very analytical. And, as an analytic, some of the most successful students that I have, some of the most successful operators that I've seen, are very analytical, but you also know how you have to check off every single box before you make a move. Well, you can't do that. You've got to actually do it, okay? You've got to actually do it and recognize that you may not see the whole pathway, but that's you got to make that decision. And I'm going to tell you, it could be the most important decision of your life to create more freedom for yourself, your family, whatever it is, or whatever vehicle you decide to choose for that freedom. But once you make that decision, then you've got to take the first step. And, Dr. Martin Luther King said, especially for those of you that are analytical, you may not see the whole staircase. You've got to take that first step in faith. The next step will be revealed. Even Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. And, for those of you who are analytical, I want you to remember the analogy. And that is that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlights seeing 60 feet in front of you. Now, you can make it. Other people have made it before you. You may have some obstacles. It's the same way with our business. If you want to get into multifamily or some other asset class of commercial real estate, but you got to take that first step. And again, I'm talking to you analytics. And this life's not a dress rehearsal. I call my failures seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar, but it was a seminar. And I've built 29 businesses so far in my lifetime. I was shocked when I counted. Several were tens of millions of dollars, but most were spectacular, flaming seminars, okay? Because we fail our way to success. So if you're analytical and you fear failure, I'm going to tell you, fear regret. Don't fear failure. Fear being in the same place you are right now 3 years from now, unless you absolutely freaking love where you are right now. So, there was this nurse in Australia, Kyle, a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients when they were about to die. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked him a question. And the question was, right before the end of their life, she said, "Do you have any regrets?" And she wrote a book about it. It's a bestseller, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying or something like that. And the number one regret was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. Fear that. Don't fear failure. Okay. And speaking about fear, so many of us have fear, but the most successful people on the planet push through in spite of it, and many of us have limiting beliefs as well. I'll share something with you. I actually have the prop right here because it's kind of funny. So when I immigrated, I found out, I didn't speak English. I got thrown into school. I was 6 years old. I found out what bullies were for the first time. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, sent me to school in these wooden shoes. These are the actual scene of the crime shoes, okay? And also these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So that was crack cocaine for the bullies. I got my ass kicked again, as you can imagine, And then the bullies would chase me home with and she'd chase them off. My mom would chase them off with a fly swatter. So the next day I got my ass kicked. And so I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which of course presupposed I wasn't. But a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. And if you're if you're listening and you're consciously aware with this, like an example, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not courageous enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. But see, the thing to remember is there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of the time they are BS. But we believe they're real and they impact our entire life. And so if you're consciously aware of one of these, I would just ask you to drag it out into the daylight, look at it with your adult rational mind, recognize it has no basis in fact, and recognize that it's holding you back. And if you do that consciously enough, it will dissipate. I mean, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of 10 kids in a classroom, and now I speak in front of thousands of people a year, typically in flip-flops, And so, because you can't eliminate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love all that. Love all that.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks,
no, I was just going to say real quick. I mean, basically in 2008, 2009, you lost more money than most physicians I know or dentists will make in our lifetime, which is, sounds bad, right? To us, probably more so than you. But you bounced back, and it was all mindset, to your point. I would tell you, physicians, I mean, there's a lot of physicians that feel burnout, right? Like, I think the burnout rate is really like 50%. So physicians, dentists make good money. But I think that's also the problem, is they make good money, and so they have a hard time stepping away from that. There's a comfort zone
golden
to it.
handcuffs.
Golden handcuffs. You got it. So what's your advice? You obviously push past it, and you're living this great life.
Well, let me give a couple. Yeah, let me give a couple more strategies.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Another one is focus. Okay, focus is power, and wherever your focus goes, that's where your energy goes. And I will tell you, incredible focus equals incredible success. And as a physician or a dentist, you've got a high degree of focus. However, whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative, okay? So it's very, very important that you focus on what you want, not what you don't want. It's been very easy for me to focus on losing everything. I use it to teach, but that's it. They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, "No, I'm pro-peace." I mean, you get the difference there. And I get people call me and say, "Hey, how do I get out of student loan debt?" I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money that debt's irrelevant is the right question. Yeah. So, pay attention to what you're focused on. It's very, very important. I don't know about you, but, I'll be watching, Netflix, and I'll be scrolling through social media, which absolutely kills your focus, right? Yep. So, pay attention to that. I'll tell you, I listened to a couple of podcasts, and my podcast is well over 30 million downloads at this point. And I listened to two shows. I listened to Joe Rogan and I listened to Tim Ferriss. I was just listening to Joe Rogan interview Elon Musk. extraordinary interview. It's like, holy crap, interview. But I try to get both sides of the aisle. Okay, well, I'm definitely on the Joe Rogan side, but I like Tim Ferriss's show because he interviews the best of the best in the world. Okay, and there's a punchline here. So best actors like Hugh Jackman, Ed Norton, Arnold, Jamie Foxx, billionaires like Ray Dalio. The best athletes on the planet like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, NFL, NBA players. Heads of the CEOs of the biggest companies like Zuckerberg, and he deconstructs their success. It's very intellectual conversation. I enjoy the conversation a lot, and he deconstructs how they achieve their success. And I started to hear a pattern, Kyle. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is super, super important. Pay attention to it. The other thing in our business, as you know, Kyle, is there are a lot of different hats you can wear if you're going to, and I'm speaking to not to you that want to just invest passively, which is a great way to go, but also those of you that may want to do this as a side hustle, which is what, again, I've got dentists, I've got numerous dentists and physicians that do this as a side hustle, orthopedic surgeons, you name it, all of it. And the key is, and there's a lot of hats you can wear. The key is to play to your strengths, okay? Because there are a lot of hats. You can be the person that finds the deals. You can be the person that raises money for those deals. You can be the person that analyzes those deals. You could, if you've got some project management, construction experience, even management experience of any kind, you could asset manage the asset after you buy it. There's a lot of different hats. You could do investor relations, whatever. But the key is to play to your strengths, okay? Don't try to maximize your weaknesses. Your strengths are your greatest assets. And I would tell you, if you decide to do this, play to your strengths and hire a line or partner for your weaknesses. Because if you're playing to your strengths, you're going to love what you're doing. And you're never going to work another day in your life because you love what you're doing. Some of the best partnerships I see in this business, and again, I've got, over 2,000 students and own probably close to 300,000 multifamily units, tons of senior housing, tons of mobile home parks, tons of industrial flex space, self-storage, you name it, every asset class except office. Stay the hell away from office. It's hurting. But the point is, the best partnerships I see are an analytical person with an introverted person, because you need both in this business. And so play to your strengths. See, when you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be passionate about it, and passion is required to influence people. So, you got to influence in our business. You got to influence brokers, sellers, investors, you name it. And so, I again, playing to your strengths is a real superpower, because success requires an ability to influence, and that passion will breed creativity and innovation, and and it's the fuel. When you hit speed bumps, it's what gets you over the hump. So don't settle, don't play small. Figure out what juices you. If you're going to do a side hustle, pick your vehicle. If it's multifamily real estate or really any commercial real estate, I do a virtual boot camp. I highly recommend you come. I don't sell anything there. It's 2 days of training with nothing being sold. You can come for $47. So there's no excuse. In fact, let me leave the link for that. If you, if you're driving or something, go to if you're driving, text the word links to 72345. If you're not, it's rodslinks.com. My bootcamp site's there. There's a bunch of free books there. My social media is there. There's my goal setting workshop is there. If you not interested in multifamily, people spend more time planning a Christmas party than they do designing their lives. Doing your goals is designing your life. Have your spouse do it. Have your kid if they're over 10 years old. If there's a goal setting workshop in my link tree, Rod's Links, there's a guide you can download. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Go do your goals, and have your spouse and kids do it as well. Design their lives. It's very, very powerful. Everybody will leave incredibly motivated. But of course, that's the first thing we do at my boot camps as well, is the goal setting. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is you want? But yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
No, that's great. And so to anybody listening, would you advise them and say, you're busy in your work, so be a limited partner in deals, put it into
sure. That's a great way to start. Well, that's a great way to start. You can absolutely invest passively, but you can also invest actively. You're connected to a lot of doctors, and they have money. And my most successful student, candidly, is an orthopedic surgeon. If you know Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
But he's my most successful student. And so yeah, you could be active and raise money. And that's what Tyson does. One of my most successful student. He raises money from the medical community. He kills it. And he's in like 6,000 units and all sorts of other asset classes. But here's the bottom line, if you aren't happy where you're at, then you really need to, think about what vehicle you're going to use. Now, if you listen to this show, you're probably interested in multifamily. I mean, we've become a renter nation. There's incredible opportunity in this business right now. Tons of operators that have got adjustable rate debt that are in trouble. There's $1.5 trillion coming due next year in debt. And here's the problem with that. Those people that have that debt, $1 trillion is a big number, by the way. If you ever want to be wowed, take a look on Google and put in, show me visually what the difference is between $1 million, $1 billion, and $1 trillion. And when you see the difference between $1 billion and $1 trillion, it'll blow your mind. But anyway, there's $1.5 trillion worth of debt coming due, and those operators have to sell or they have to refinance. Well, sales are down 90%. Refinancing is very challenging because they have to meet what's called debt service coverage requirements. The banks look at the property's ability to service the debt, and with the interest rates where they are, it's very, very challenging. And there are already incredible deals upon us. We've got an asset in San Antonio, 200 units. The property next door sold in 21 or 22 for 42 or 43 million. I think it was 42 or 43 million. The bank now owns it. They're down to 28 million. Okay. We're going to consider it if it comes down to 24. Okay. Which is almost half of what it sold for like 3-4 years ago. So that's what's upon us right now. And I think it's going to be even better next year in 26. So if there was ever a time to get in this business, it is right now. It could be the greatest transfer of wealth we've seen in our lifetimes, candidly. There's opportunities in every asset class. It's not just multifamily. There's senior housing. I'm getting into senior housing. Very excited about that. 10,000 people a day turning 65 in this
Silver
country.
tsunami, they're calling it, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So there's a lot of opportunity in commercial real estate.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So multifamily obviously has done pretty well through the 2020 recession, if you will, or not recession, but 2020, and it's come out the other side. Do you still like that asset class, or are you moving to residential?
I'll still do multifamily for sure. It's the belle of the ball, but I am looking at other asset classes. I'm very interested in mobile home parks as well. But again, my students own all upwards of 300,000 units. We know it's 275,000 because we're counting, but I know it's a lot more than that. We're missing a ton. There's that. But because of the tumultuous nature right now of the markets, I'm looking at other things as well. It's some very exciting other things. So
generally speaking, what markets do you like? I know that you've been big on not doing blue states, sticking with mostly red states.
I don't do blue states. It's just, in fact, listen to that Joe Rogan interview with Elon Musk. He talks about how I'm not going to go down that political rabbit hole, but I mean, just New York State and California are basically broke. If they stop getting money that they're getting illegally, candidly, from the U.S. government, they'd be broke. So they're overregulated, they're overtaxed, and they're landlord averse. They don't like landlords. So, who knows what's going to happen with this new mayor in New York? I mean, it's like
he's talking socialist. He's talking about
getting rid of the police department and getting social workers. Yeah, tell me how good that works. Yeah, tell me how good that works. Anyway, the best states that I like right now are Texas, Florida. I have assets in all these states: Texas, Florida, Ohio, Indiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, and parts of Georgia, and the eastern half of Tennessee. Love those areas. Yeah. So there's low hanging fruit. Of course, I love Arizona as well. I don't have assets in Arizona, but love it. Idaho's fantastic. So there's some good markets on the west side as well.
Yep. And Arizona seems to be...
Midwest always does well. By the way, the Denvers of the world, Kansas City, St. Louis, that area, those areas always do quite well.
We're in Indianapolis, Indiana, and these seem to do well, right? 2008 hit, and everybody stays pretty stable just because there's jobs and people have to live. That's the big thing, right?
Right.
Yep. No, that's great. Good. I mean, the big thing that you talked about early on was mindset. I think a lot of docs and dentists listening to this to this need that. You're very good
let
at
me
it.
let me interject. Let me interject
Please.
something else. Yeah,
Let's hear it.
The importance of your peer group. Okay.
Yep.
I will tell you the reason that my warriors, my coaching, my mentorship students are so successful is that group. There are dozens of groups in there that have purchased properties. And, when you take down your first property, you really need to align with somebody that's already done it. But I'll tell you show me your 2 or 3 best friends. I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your health, your happiness, your definitely your finances. And, because who you hang out with is who you become. And both professionally and personally. And so many people default to people they work with or people they went to school with. And, you want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy. And so, pay close attention to that. So, if you're going to get into this business, get around people, go to meetup groups or go to real estate investor associate meetings or take a look at, a program like mine and get around people that want more out of life because a rising tide lifts all ships. But be careful who you allow to influence you. I would tell you sometimes the negative influence is family. I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose your peers. Super important.
Yep, that's great. No, you're right. Yeah. Being together, the whole teamwork thing in commercial real estate is big. Being around, other like-minded people. Finding your superpower is also a big part of it. Let's talk about, do you mind talking about philanthropy a little bit? And I think a lot of us would love to hear about that, what you're doing with Tiny Hands Foundation.
Sure. So let me just tell you a story. So when I lived in Denver, I knew I wanted to live on the beach. And of course, there's no beach in Denver. It's in the middle of the country. But my dad worked for Continental Airlines, so we got to fly to Hawaii and I got to see what a beach looks like. And I was like, holy crap, this is how I want to live. And so I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this incredible mansion on the beach here in Sarasota. It was a Gulf to Bay property. I owned the beach on one side. I had my boats on the backside. And this house is magnificent. This 10,000 square foot mansion, big spiral staircase up through the middle, big waterfall from the second floor, balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool, pools and magazines, and wine cellar, elevator. I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase. It cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. Well, I worked for that thing for 20 years, okay? 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating up in the pool at night. I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was, to prove the world I was good enough. I mean, if that didn't do it, forget it, my family's inside sleeping, a beautiful family. I had all the stupid stuff I thought was important, the Maserati and the 2 Mercedes and the boat and the jet skis and all the crap. And I'm looking up at this thing 2 months after I moved in, and I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I was like, holy crap, really depressed. And I realized, Kyle, there were several things happening when I look back on it. At the time, I was like, what the heck's going on? But there were 3 things. One is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. The second thing is, happiness doesn't come from the goals. You need the goals to create that hunger to push yourself out of comfort. The comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we all know nothing grows there, right? That magnificent life of your dreams is just on the other side of comfort. So you need the goals to do that. But they say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are what? The day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? And so, but you need them anyway. But happiness comes from progress and growth, not from the goals. And I didn't know how I was going to go beyond that and progress and grow. So that was the second piece. But the third piece was I'd been totally focused on me. Rod, blah, blah, blah. Show the world I matter, right? Well, that's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins, and I ended up spending 23 years with him. If you have an opportunity to see him, just do it. You'll thank me. But I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I was like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But I called my brother in Denver because I was going to visit him for Thanksgiving. And I said, bro, let's feed 5 families. And so he called his church and found 5 families that really needed help. And the third family changed my life, Kyle. So we bought food and toys and frozen turkeys and all this stuff. And we go up to this third family, and it was this Hispanic woman with 5 kids living in, it wasn't even a 1-bedroom. It was a crappy 1-bedroom shack. And she comes out, she sees all the stuff on the porch, she starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying, and I start crying, and I was hooked. And I'm blessed to say, in the last 26 years, I've fed over 150,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. And please know this is not ego. There's a real message in this. If you want success, don't tune this out. Okay. So I've fed a lot of kids, and like yours there, and I've provided tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids, and I've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in a vehicle if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. And the reason I bring this up, Tony Robbins, well, before I say that quote, we've been taught that we shouldn't be happy until we've achieved. That's like a U.S. thing. Don't be happy until you've achieved. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you give back in any fashion, let's reverse that. You'll be happily achieving. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily or commercial real estate? Get your butt to my boot camp. It's $47 friggin'. There's no excuse. I don't sell anything there. I'll give you the blueprint. You just got to do it. That's a science. But fulfillment is an art. So achievement's a science, fulfillment's an art. You got to find out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's the elderly. I also love the elderly, so I'm getting an assisted living. Maybe it's the animals or the animals or the environment. You've got to figure out what juices you, and go do that, because that's the way God works. And don't say, you had money, that's why you do it. Well, if you're a physician or dentist, you've got some money. Give back right now, okay? Because power moves to those who serve. I see it with my students all the time. The ones that are the most philanthropic are the ones that are the most successful. So give back right now, and you'll be happily achieving, and whatever level of success you want will come much faster. So,
I love that. And it's not about how much money you make to be able to give back, right? And it seems like
you can give your time. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't have money, right?
Yep. And it does seem like when you start giving back, even that 10% tithing to the church or whatever that is, you're like, it feels tight. That's when all of a sudden you get a random check or something big happens, and it's like, whose timing is that? Yep.
That's how it works.
I love it. Yeah. So for you, okay, so obviously you talked about the big house and all the things. But fulfillment is much more important in that Keith Cunningham quote: success is what you get, fulfillment is what you give. But what are some challenges that you face personally when it comes to being successful, if any?
Well, I've had some bad partnerships. I've got one right now I'm dealing with, and I teach this stuff. And I was just talking about this on another podcast, and with an old friend that was a member of my mastermind way back when. So that's a challenge, and that it comes up, nefarious guy that didn't realize he was my old friend that I just interviewed on his show was shocked when I told him, because he knew him as well. But, so that's a challenge, but, you deal with it, you go through peaks and valleys. I get fulfillment now from my student success. I've got a wall in my other office. I've got hundreds and hundreds of thank you cards, and this is not hyperbole and like I'm trying to get you to come do my thing. It's not at all. That's what juices me now. It used to be the stupid shit like the Rolls Royce and the Bentley and the I've got $1.5 million worth of watches and the stupid Lamborghini and Maserati and all this stuff that I've had. It's none of that juices me anymore. What juices me is the love I get, and it's the truth. It juices me is the love I get from my students who are just so incredibly successful. I get love every single day. I get a DM, an email, I get a text, I get a gift, I get a card every single day. It's my greatest blessing, and so that's what juices me now.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And I just had a Legacy RX conference a few weeks ago, actually, and we talk about legacy and. I'm young, but it's my dad passed last year. And so I started thinking that way and kind of reverse engineering life. Do you think about legacy? Do you think about like what is your community or your family or mentees remember about you? Do you think about that stuff?
Oh, sure I do. I mean, I literally, like I said, I get love every single day. And so that's my legacy. I mean, I just got a text yesterday. You probably don't have my number saved, but I'm Alex. I'm one of your warriors. I just crossed the $1 million net worth at 26. Nice. And, every single day. So it's the greatest blessing. If that's not a legacy, I don't know what is. Honestly.
No, that's remarkable. No, absolutely. You're making a huge impact on a lot of people, not just from the warriors, but also from people that come to your boot camps, people that listen to your podcast,
Thanks.
No, good for you. And so what lights you up right now? Like what does the next 5, 10 years look like for you? If
Well,
anything different.
I'm definitely excited about senior housing, the silver tsunami. I mean, I'm going to buy 10 assisted living facilities in the next 18 months. It's a given. So I'm excited about that. I think that's a tidal wave that instead of getting crushed in 2008, 9, I'll surf that bad boy. Okay. So that's I'm excited about that. I'm excited where my life's at. I'm healthy. I feel great. I mean, I'm one of the tip edge of the baby boomers. I just turned 65, but
Nice.
I feel much better. And
Good for
so,
you. You look great.
yeah, thank you. And so, life is amazing. So, I'm excited about focusing less on stuff and more on experiences, traveling more. I've done all the stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good. I'm actually reading a book called The Second Mountain. And the first one is like your ego gets, your success based on your job or career or whatever that is, right? But it's very like me, ego. Your second mountain is that. It's being, showing your fulfillment. And there's a lot more peace with that second mountain, right?
sure.
So good for you.
Thanks.
So what's some final bit of advice that you would have for physicians listening to this show, dentists listening to this show? They may be
Sure,
happy in their
sure.
practice, they may not. So
Yeah, well,
bit
if
of
they're
advice
not
you have.
happy, if they're happy, then by God, do that. If life is amazing and you don't want more freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, freedom with your family, whatever, then stick with what you're doing. But if you're not quite satisfied, then again, pick your vehicle. If it's real estate, get your ass to my boot camp. I promise you'll be glad you came. But if it's something else, find your vehicle. There's going to be incredible opportunity to buy businesses. There's, people, again, 10,000 people a day turning 65. A lot of them own businesses and they want to sell. There's going to be incredible opportunity there. If there were two of me, one would be doing that for sure. But, don't sit on the fence unless you're absolutely thrilled with where you are. Get off your butt, make it happen. Trust me, you'll thank me. And 2 or 3 years from now, when you pushed yourself out of comfort and took action, then you're creating whatever it is that you want for yourself and your family. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I got to ask, because obviously you love real estate, but what are your thoughts on crypto, if anything, if that even matters to you or even
Didn't it
care?
just crash this weekend? Didn't it just
Yeah.
crash this weekend?
Bitcoin's
Yeah.
been going down.
Yeah. So listen, I can tell you, I don't know that much about Bitcoin other than
Right,
it's pretty much air. And, I like things I can touch, like a building. And if you look at rents, they've always gone up. They're going to continue to go up. And the beautiful thing about our business is the value is based on a multiple of the net income. So if rents go up, net income goes up. So the value keeps going up and you can lock in what you paid and lock in your debt. So, inflation helps us. It doesn't hurt us. And inflation's not going away. Bitcoin, I don't know that much about it, other than it's very volatile, it appears, as it just crashed this weekend. My team was just telling me about it, that I should do a clip on it. But yeah, so there's
No, that's great.
there's my
Yeah,
tips,
I mean, it helps real estate out, right?
Right.
When things like that happen, because real estate's pretty much going to go up with inflation, to your
Right.
point.
Yeah.
So, and you got to invest in what you know, like, and understand.
Right.
Yep.
Agreed.
Well, good.
Agreed.
Usually, well, go ahead. Do you have something to add?
Well,
'Cause
no, I was just going to say, if you have an interest in real estate at all, go to my link tree. There's a ton of free books there. It's rodslinks.com. If you're driving, text the word links to 72345. Again, links to 72345. But rodslinks.com. It's and my goal setting workshop is there. Have your kids do it. Have your spouse do it. You'll thank me. Have them design their lives. But that'd be the place to go. My boot camp site is there. Just a lot of free resources, and if you want to explore this, it'll help you expand your knowledge base. And the books, they're extraordinary. They're best in class books, and they're free. So the price is right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so I can attest. I've been a warrior for the last
Thank
2 years or so. But with that being said, all the resources that you have are phenomenal. Your book is phenomenal. All the things you have. But the biggest thing you do is you draw good people together, and so it does bring that connection of people. It's easy to find a team of people that you connect with to be able to do big things.
Yeah, no, the Warrior program is extraordinary. If you're interested in that, applying to that, text the word crush to 72345. Again, crush to 72345. And yeah, it just blows my mind how successful they are. It's just like every day there's a closing, it seems like, and it's just mind blowing. So
That's great.
yeah.
Hey, last four questions, just final ones. What book are you reading right now?
Believe it or not, The Case for Christ.
Nice.
I wasn't very religious, and I went on Ryan Panita's show. He does a lot of single family stuff.
I heard that podcast.
Oh, did you? And you saw we
powerful.
prayed?
That was
Yeah,
powerful.
we prayed there. That was awkward for me, honestly, praying on a podcast in front of a bunch of people. But he recommended that book, and I was literally just watching the video from the author. He got interviewed on a big podcast. I forgot the guy's name. He's a political podcaster, but great interview. And he's an investigative reporter that didn't believe in God or Jesus, and started investigating, and now he's super religious because he feels like he proved that it existed. So Ryan had me get that book. So that's a book I'm reading. But as far as books, I gift books to my warriors. Like a book called The Slight Edge, about those little decisions you make every day, or traject your life up or down. I've given away Gary Keller's One Thing. I had his co-author on the show, Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. I've had him on the show a couple of times. The 5 Love Languages. These are all different books that I gift, and I've had him on the show too, which was a blessing because he's real old and doesn't do many interviews. But yeah, there's a few. That's
great.
Just the one. Yeah.
I did hear you on that podcast with Ryan Pineda, and that was phenomenal. I actually sent that to a lot of my friends and family and just said, listen from minute 49 on, or whatever that was. It was later in the episode. But that was powerful. Good job on that. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Go bigger. It's the same question I ask my guests that have, I would not have done single family. I did 2,000 single family homes. It was single family that caused me to lose everything in 2008. So I would have just stuck with I had apartment complexes and 800 houses. The 800 houses pulled me down. And the apartment complexes would have survived. They pulled back a little bit, but they would have survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses. So, it's definitely go bigger, faster, and stick with multi. Yeah.
And what's your personal definition of wealth?
I think I just described it in the love that I get every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Yeah. By the way, I've got a sign in my, it's up here. God's wealth flows through me in avalanches of abundance. Thank you, God. And those avalanches are, of course, financial, but they're friendships, their love, their relationships, their experiences. So yeah, there you go.
I love it. The one last question I was going to say, and I might change it real quick if you don't mind, but Proverbs 11:25 states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." We've talked about all the things you're doing to refresh others. You're doing a great job with that. How about this? On the flip side, you're in great shape. You said you're 65 years young. So what is it? What's that routine that keeps you that way? Diet, exercise, is it a morning routine? What do you do that keeps you in great shape?
I used to run. Now I tore my meniscus in both my knees, so I have this elliptical bicycle in both my homes, one in Miami and one here. It's the most feminine thing I've ever done. I lose my masculinity the minute I get on it, but it's a great exercise. So I do that for my cardio. I did it this morning. I've got an incredible weight room downstairs. It's like my pride and joy. It's got every piece of equipment you can imagine. And my condo that I live in Miami has an incredible weight room as well. So I lift a couple times, to keep my tone. But, and then I eat very, very well, and I supplement like crazy. If you saw the supplements I take on a daily basis, it'd blow your mind. But, and I biohack. I take NAD plus and some other peptides. So, I do everything I can to stay as healthy as I can because, and those of you listening, I mean, if you're going to do this side hustle while you maintain your practice, and you've got a family and you've got kids, like you hear Kyle's in the background, which was really amusing, it's going to take incredible energy. And to do that, you've got to be healthy. So you got to be exercising. You got to be taking care of yourself, to grind for a few years like most people won't. So you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And that takes energy. So, you really got to pay attention to that. Now, you guys in the medical field, all this, but sometimes you know, but you don't practice, so
100%. Yeah. I mean, you definitely see overweight doctors out there, right?
Oh, sure.
Nurses,
sure.
doctors. Yeah. So it is practicing what you preach is the big thing.
Right.
Rod, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on to our podcast and sharing your story, your wisdom, your energy, all of it is infectious.
Thanks, Kyle.
We really appreciate you. Yeah. So again, I know you've throwing this out throughout the episode, but where can people find you, find your boot camp, find all that
Yeah,
stuff?
sure. Again, it's on my link tree, rodslinks.com, or just text the word links to 72345. Start listening to my podcast. It'll really help you. And that's there, or you can go to rodspodcast.com as well. I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm, just crazy that it's the biggest one out there. It just blows my mind. But yeah, I'd love to see if I can add value to you, on a more regular basis. So, but thanks for having me, Kyle. It's great to see you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you, Rod.
All right, thanks. See
All
ya.
right, sir.
This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down. I'm too fly. This is my time.
Thanks for listening to the Doctors Investor Club podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to think bigger, dream bolder, and take the next step toward financial freedom. If you're a doctor or dentist and you're ready to join our community, head over to doctorsinvestorclub.com. Our mobile app and forum are free for physicians and dentists. You'll find AI tools, curated investor resources, and live events. And if you want VIP access to private dinners, exclusive deals, and opportunities to speak on stage, it's free when you refer 3 colleagues. Subscribe to the show, share it with a colleague, and remember, you're not just building wealth, you're building a legacy.
Watch out. Here I come. This is my time. I'm on the rise.